Okay, so now we've applied the mask that we created and then brought it down to the correct layer, and then we have Yellowstone underneath. So you want to leave all these layers in there. And the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to clean this up a little bit around the edges. So I can zoom in here and see that some of these areas are fine like they are, just because the trees are darker in the background. So that's okay there. Um, this side looks pretty good. Um, you can see there's a little bit here that needs a little bit of work. So what we can do there with this broken looking hair is we click on the mask. You don't want to be on the actual layer. When you want to be on the actual mask that's linked to that other image, the mask itself. And to bring this back, we're going to try using a white brush here, right? Remember, white shows up, black disappears. So think of it that way. Let's bring the brush down here and see if we can kind of repair that just by going in and painting out the darker areas, and then we can bring some of that back, okay, like that, so we can rescue some of it too, where it looks broken. Maybe even over here too a little bit. I don't know if this is even has any more there to it. I guess it does. That one is there. So you can repair with the lighter color there if something's missing. Um, and then let's go over to the other side and I'll show you. There's some darker areas I want to get rid of. So I'm going to zoom in again from the black paint from the previous image. So now instead of using white, we want to get rid of that. So we're going to make it a darker value. I know it's already dark. That's kind of ironic, but remember when we're on a mask layer, black color will hide things. White color will bring them out again. So we're going to use the black brush again, being on the mask layer itself, not the actual image, but the mask that we brought in. And using a darker value, now watch, we can just paint this out and it starts to disappear. Okay. Again, darker values are hidden, lighter values bring out the image. So just keep that in mind. And you can get rid of some of those shadowy areas that you don't need. All right, and then there's one here. So again, it'll just bring out the picture behind it, which is great. That's what you want. Okay, and then maybe one here. Let's bring that down a little bit. Some of this probably won't be visible, but if somebody's really going to scrutinize it, you might want to get that worked out. Get rid of some of that pixelation there and just clean it up. Okay. There aren't too many of those areas, but enough to make me want to paint them out. Again, this is just the cleanup that we do. Again, let's bump that up a little bit. And you certainly don't want those in there impeding from the look of the photo. You want to try to make it look as natural as possible. So again, using a darker value on the brush, a black in other words, we can paint out some of the stuff that's appearing in the layer mask. Okay, and we can bring it back if we use white. So that's kind of interesting that we can do that. All right, keep going here. And just really make it look like she's there. Again, another reason why you should never believe anything you see on the internet. Using this kind of technology can be tricky, can fool people sometimes if you're really good at it. I don't know if I could, but you can see how you can really clean up the image this way. All right. It looks pretty good. So we're getting close there to having it the way we want. Again, there's a few other areas over here that you might want to contend with. This part can be really tedious if you still have a lot of, your color in there from the painting. But it's totally worth doing in the end, I think, when you see the results. Okay, so it looks pretty good. And then we have one more along this edge, I think, and then I'll show you the last thing I would do to get this thing looking just the way I want it, or as good as I can get it. So again, we'll just get this dark line along this ridge. I want it to have that feathered look, kind of like the rest of it. Something like that. Just clean up that line. I draw so much attention to it. Essentially, we're just getting rid of those colors that don't kind of look in place there. Those are kind of adding something unnatural to the eye. Or at least as much as we can, anyway. Here we might want a little darker edge just to differentiate the sweater surface from the background. But something like that will probably get you in the ball. Oops. We'll get you there. Notice there I had to undo it. Again, take your finger off the mouse. Don't be like me. And that way you won't lose everything when you have to undo it. Luckily, I had saved some of it, though, by taking my finger off the mouse earlier. But the idea is to just kind of get rid of that little residue on the edges there that would grab the eye and go, that looks suspicious. Okay, that looks pretty good. Probably would work on that a little more, but yeah, it looks good. All right. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let's zoom out and see where we are. And again, not 100% done, but that looks pretty darn close to what we want. We'd like to see through her hair a little bit in certain areas and see the blue background. So the last thing I would consider maybe is working on having her blend in with the color of the scene behind her. She's a bit bright there in the foreground, so let's see if we can make her blend in a little bit better. We're going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, but let's go to the image itself. So not the mask, but we're going to go to the image of her and adjust the Hue Saturation there. You may want to go in and look at, hey, I want to adjust the, let's do the reds, for example. Let's adjust just the reds in the image, Bring out more of the blues, just a subtle thing. Or you could just do all of them, do the master channel here. You can change up the hue a little bit. You don't want to do it too much, right? You want to try to make this look as natural as possible. Let's drop it down, maybe just a hair, not much. That looks pretty good right there. Try to get her to blend in. And then basically what you want to do is export this final image out as a JPEG. So what you do is you're going to go up to File, Export, do a quick export as JPEG, and we'll call this Final Image. Okay, so Final Image, we're going to put that on the desktop. And now we're just going to bring the final image back in so it's on top of the other layers. And again, if it's a smart object here, just right-click on the layer itself and rasterize the layer. Okay, so this is basically what you're going to have at the end when you save it out. Okay, you're basically going to have 4 layers. You're going to have your final image. You're going to have the layer in which you made the mask. You're going to have the layer in which you have the original image that you created to make the mask plus the mask itself. And then finally, you're going to have your background layer to show up. So these are the 4 layers I want to see in your project when you're done. And you send me the Psd file, okay? So make sure, again, when you feel like you've done as much as you can, you go up to File. Make sure you save it out as a Psd file. So this would be 9-your last name. Make sure it's a Psd file and just save it into a folder where you know where it is, because you're going to attach that to an email. And you're going to send that to me again with the 4 layers. The final image, the layer in which you created the mask, the layer in which you apply the mask, and finally the background layer.